All right, we have a Franciscan community of priests and brothers that has been serving at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center for almost 2 years. And now, all of a sudden, they have received a cease and desist order from the hospital. And all of this came just days before this year's Holy Week. According to the Catholic Archdiocese for the Military Services, this action denies Catholic service members and wounded veterans the right to practice their religion. And what's even more disturbing, reports indicate that the Pentagon granted a new contract for pastoral care to a for-profit secular company, and they've offered no explanation for the sudden change. So what's going on? Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is U.S. Representative Mary Miller, who, along with 24 of her colleagues, sent a letter to Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin demanding answers. She serves on the House Committee for Agriculture and the Committee on Education and Workforce. She represents the 15th Congressional District of Illinois. Congresswoman Miller, welcome back to the program, and thank you so much for your work on this critically important issue.
It's great to be here. I've always appreciated Family Research Council. Before I was in office a long time ago, I would listen to the radio while I was raising my children and here on the farm. And also, I so enjoyed serving with you, Jody. But thank you for having me. And yes, it's another day of crazy under the Biden administration. And
really
I think we're seeing a pattern here. It's a pattern. They're attacking the foundations of our country. The very things that made us great was our faith and then also our families. And, you know, this is outrageous. These priests have been going to Walter Reed for 20 years. But not only that, we've had priests and pastors on the front lines with our troops. They've been with our troops through the darkest days and toughest battles. And to kick these Catholic priests out of Walter Reed over Easter weekend is just, it's hard to come up with a word to describe it. It's outrageous. And they may not want to tell us why, but we are demanding that they tell us why. We've written a letter to Biden's Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin. But there's no way that an anti-religious for-profit organization is going to be able to offer what these priests offered, which was consolation to our Christian service members through their faith.
Well, yeah, it really is disturbing. And, you know, it comes, like you said, after 20 years of service. There's no explanation as to why the hospital did that. And coming right before Holy Week, the whole thing just makes you kind of scratch your head and wondering what in the world is going on. Do you have any clue whatsoever to an explanation as to why this abrupt change all of a sudden?
Well, it may be an abrupt change for the priests who were going into Walter Reed, but it's not an abrupt change in light of what we've seen out of the Biden administration. They are wholly against Christian Americans. We know now that the FBI has been spying on Catholics, thinking that they're some kind of domestic terrorist. And, you know, they're just so emboldened. And I want to take this opportunity to encourage the listeners that evil never retreats on its own, only when it's confronted by a more powerful force. And evil is not going to retreat. We have to fight back. They're counting on us to be uninformed, to be indifferent and apathetic and afraid. And our ideas are better. God has left us on earth for such a time as this to overcome evil with good, and we have to push back.
Well, Mary, that's one thing I love about you is your biblical stance, unwavering stance on those issues, and your willingness to go out on the tip of the spear and address some of these things. Let me ask you this. Well, you hit on a couple of things I want to come back to, but are you aware of any complaint that the hospital had against these priests? Have they criticized any of their conduct or their services that you're aware of?
No, and they have given no explanation as of yet, but our letter is demanding explanation, and they just lie. And then if we bring the truth forward, they lie again and call the truth misinformation. And this is their pattern, but, there are multiple members of Congress that are strong in their faith, that love our country and are unafraid. I'm just so proud of Jim Jordan and Jamie Comer and so many others that are doing the important job of oversight in our country. And I'm thrilled that Jim Jordan has subpoenaed Chris Wray. And, we need to use every legal thing at our disposal to ferret out the truth from this administration, because we know we're not going to get it from them any other way.
Well, Mary Miller, I want to thank you so much for your leadership on this issue, along with 24 of your colleagues. We hope to get to the bottom of this and hope to be able to speak with you further about it as this unfolds.
Well, as soon as we get a response, we will let you know.
Thank you. Keep the torch ablaze, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us on Washington Watch this evening.